Yo, what's up guys? My name is IronBoffin and you heard correctly. We are back in Draft League format. It has been many years since I played, since Gen 7 and Ultra Sun Ultra Moon, that I have played Draft League format, and we are back in the Pokemon Premier League. I don't know what season it is, but we're back for the Pokemon Premier League, and I am here today to tell you about my draft. Okay, first up, I was number 13, draft pick number 13 in a round of 20 other coaches in the league here. So I'm definitely sitting like mid-table, and mid-table is an ugly place to be. So you're gonna see me stretch a lot, be like, okay, I kind of need this piece. I'm gonna pick it a little earlier than I think it belongs. But let's get right into my first pick. My first pick, I said, okay, I'm already number 13 on the board. I am going to pick the strongest Pokemon available. I don't care what it is, I will build around it. And there was one I was hoping for because it is my favorite Gen 9 Pokemon, and it's a powerhouse. My first draft pick in the Pokemon Premier League was Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon, Paradox, Salamence. I am so excited that it fell to me. I love Roaring Moon. Base 119 speed is crazy fast for something you're looking to just hit really hard. The base one, I think it's base 139 attack, which is really respectable. Obviously it's not the hardest hitting Pokemon in the game, but that is an insane attack stat to be able to bring every week. And with the fact its ability with photosynthesis means, you know, maybe I try to build a little sun team, I get a little sun options later on in the draft. You know, I don't have to invest in a sun team for Roaring Moon to be good, but if I do pick up a Sunsetter, then, you know, that'll pay dividends, even though I don't have to spend a lot of points on it. And then, you know, we have pick number 2. So, you know, I was 13, it goes down 7 more coaches and goes back up 7 more coaches. And I'm like, okay, I need a Mon to cover Roaring Moon. So Roaring Moon obviously has a couple big weaknesses in ice. Fairy is the big one, obviously 4 times weak to Fairy, and fighting. And somehow I got super lucky that this Pokemon was still on the board. After coming back to me, I grabbed Goldango. Actually perfect synergy with Roaring Moon. I was so lucky that it was still available. The Steel Ghost type perfectly covers Roaring Moon's weaknesses. Immune to fighting, resist fairy, bug, ice, all those things. Actual perfect coverage. And then Roaring Moon also helps Goldango being resistant to dark, fire, and ghost. So that's like a perfect pair. That's a great pair. One's a physical attacker, one's a special attacker. And the other small thing about Goldango that is actually huge for me is that it's the best spin blocker in the game. You cannot rapid spin against it because it's a ghost type, and you also can't click defog against it because it's as good as gold. So you can't, because defog drops stats, it fails against Goldango, so you can't use defog. So basically Goldango will stop any attempt at hazard removal, and that can be very huge in team prep. You know, I can run hazard stacking, spikes, rocks, whatever. I can run all these things. So Goldango was a huge pickup. I could not believe it came back up to me. So that was really good. Then third pick's coming around. So this took a long time to come back to me. So I was 13, so it's got to go 12 to 1, 1 to 12 back to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for a fairy type. Let's just finish the Dragon Steel Fairy Core as soon as possible. I want to get a good fairy type, something I can bring every week. And you know, I wasn't quite sure where to go on this. There was a couple options. I was really looking at a Pokemon. I was looking at Primarina, but it got picked like one person before me. Literally, like, I think like 2 people before me picked Primarina because I was looking for a little bulk to cover Roaring Moon. But you know who was still on the board? Azumarill. Azumarill, that's right. Our third pick in the Pokemon Premier League will be Azumarill. Azumarill is really cool because obviously it's got that huge power, so it's going to be hitting really hard and don't even have to invest that much. So we got the huge power. It's got Aqua Jet. It's got Belly Drum set up. You can run Assault Vest and still hit really hard. You can get really cheeky and use its Sap Sipper as like a grass immunity to get an attack boost while being bulky and having the immunity. All that kind of stuff. I probably won't use Sap Sipper a ton. Obviously, huge power brings a ton of value. But this is Counter League format. You never know when you're going to need it. So Azumarill is a pretty cool pickup there. Like I said, finishes the Fairy Dragon Steel Core. And that's a powerful 3 Pokemon that I can reliably bring every single week. Roaring Moon, Goldango, Azumarill. So what are we looking for next? So now we're in the draft. You know, we're getting kind of deep now. This is my 4th pick. I forget how many. That's like 80 picks in. You know, things are getting a little thin. And I'm like, man, you know what I need? I have suffered previously in draft league formats for not having good hazard removal. So I want to lock in. I know it's a little early to pick something like this, but I need to lock in a good hazard removal Pokemon. And, you know, I also need a Mon that can set them up. I need a Mon that has Stealth Rocks and things. And you know who has both of those things? Torkoal. Torkoal, we're grabbing Toast, a Boffin Lock legend in Toast the Torkoal. And you know what else is good about Torkoal? Drought. You know what's good about Drought? Photosynthesis Roaring Moon. So now I've just knocked out several birds with one stone. I got a Stealth Rocker. I got a Rapid Spinner. I got Sun for Moon. So that's really good. Obviously, you know, we gotta be a little careful with Drought because it does weaken Azumarill's like Aqua Jet. It weakens my Waterfall. So that's obviously not ideal. And also, Goldango is weak to fire, so we gotta be careful around that. But having a reliable spinner, a reliable Stealth Rocker, and also being able to bring Sun for Roaring Moon. I don't have to bring Sun. I can bring other things, you know, like if I'm like, I really don't want Sun this week, like if I'm really relying on Azumarill, I can run like White Smoke or whatever just in case we don't want to run Sun, but who doesn't want to run Sun? But that's my 4th pick, and I think that was huge. Very efficient pick. Like I said, probably a little early to snag Torkoal, but I was like, the value of having all those things in one Pokemon was worth kind of picking a little early for. Our next pick, so this is where I really started to stretch. I was really afraid at that spot in the draft. A lot of the bulky water types hadn't gone yet. You know, Milotic was still on the board, Vaporeon was still on the board, Swampert. A lot of the bulky water types were still in play, and I'm like, man, if I don't take a water type here, like a bulky water, like Azumarill is like bulky, but like a bulky water type, you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, if I don't take that here, I might not get one. So I did want to make sure I snagged some good bulk to the team, because like our team's a little frail right now. I snagged Vaporeon. I took Vaporeon. It was a really tough pick between Vaporeon and Milotic. I had the option of both. I went with Vaporeon for a couple of reasons. Obviously, bulky water has Flip Turn. I think Milotic also has Flip Turn. But the big thing that Vaporeon has that Milotic doesn't is Wish Pass. So using things like Wish lets me maybe get some initiative going into Roaring Moon, like a slow Wish Pass as well. So, you know, it has Wish, has a Flip Turn, so I can get a slow turn into Roaring Moon, who can come in for free, get the healing. Goldango also appreciates stuff like that, you know, Azumarill. All those mons really appreciate coming into a Wish. So that is actually, like I said, it was really cool. Like I said, a little early to pick Vaporeon, but I was really scared that I wasn't going to get a water type at all, like a bulky water type. Anyway, my 6th pick here in the Pokemon Premier League. If you're looking at this team, one little small problem already kind of showing itself is a ground weakness. Goldango is weak to ground and Torkoal is weak to ground. And those are 2 mons I probably plan on bringing a lot of weeks. We need to cover that ground weakness. Now, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it with a flying mon, obviously, but I didn't love a lot of the flying options on the board to pick this early. But, you know, I was still looking for some bulk on the team, and I went and picked up Cresselia. Now, I know that's not going to make me a popular person. Cresselia is a very unpopular Pokemon to play against because of how bulky it is, but I don't care. I went and snagged it. The ground immunity and levitate covers Goldango and it covers Torkoal. It has a couple funny options, like it has a lot of really good recovery, has a thunder wave, like annoyances and stuff like that. But its job is there to be bulky, and maybe if there's a week where they don't have a good option into it, I can Calm Mind, recover, and just absolutely ruin somebody's day. So I do feel a little bad because Vaporeon Cresselia is a very nasty bulky core. But it could work out really well. And also Cresselia has, I forget, it's either Lunar Blessing or Lunar Dance, whichever move. Basically, I could take a hit, live it, go for the Lunar Dance / Lunar Blessing, whichever it is, faint, and then go back into a Pokemon for full health. So I could like run Roaring Moon early, get him weakened, and then go in with Cresselia and like bring him back to full health. So that's kind of like a small little, I was like, yeah, you know, that might work. But I don't think Cresselia has any other like switch initiative, so that's not ideal. But anyway, this is where the draft starts to get fun. This is where you're like, okay, I have the bulk of my team. I have the power players on the team. Now we need to fill in the holes. I didn't fill in a hole. I went for some more offense, and it also fills some good roles. With my 7th pick, playing off the Torkoal and the Sun team, I grabbed Venusaur. Okay, Venusaur has Chlorophyll, an excellent Sun Sweeper. It's got obviously it's a really good poison type. It's a grounded poison type, so that way people will be like, that's a really good poison type. I'm not gonna bring Toxic Spikes because why bother? You know, especially when I have like Steel types. And then, like I said, Venusaur will just absorb the Toxic Spike, so you know, makes people not really want to bring it. And the Sun Sweeper, and also Venusaur is a good eligible Pokemon to be a Terra Captain. I'll go more into the Terra Captains here at the end. but because they kind of work a little different than I think other leagues do. I'm not exactly sure how all the other leagues did Terra Captains, but I'll go into that at the end. But Venusaur is a very good candidate for that, and kind of all of my other mons weren't really good options at that point. So Venusaur is super strong. You know, if we're in the sun, we have access to Weather Ball, so we'll be throwing off I think it's base 100 fire attacks in the sun, so that's actually really huge for Venusaur. Next up, my 8th pick in the Pokemon Premier League, we went with a mascot pick. Sign me up for Rhydon, Rochester the Rhydon itself. There was a couple reasons to go for this. Obviously, one, that bulk is insane. Rhydon with Eviolite is insane, and it hits so hard. I believe it has base 130 attack already. Tie that together with its base like 140 defense, and then, you know, obviously its special defense is where it's lacking. But in this game, there's no hidden power. Okay, so I don't have to be worried about hidden power water and hidden power grass like I was in previous leagues. The only thing I do have to be careful of is like Terra Blast coverage, which you have to, you know, obviously you have to terrastalize before you can use it. So if I see a mon that has the Terra, you know, the Terra types, again, I'll go into the Terra types at the end, Terra Captains. But basically I should know if a coverage move is going to be available against Rhydon. But you can't go wrong with a good mascot pick, man. He throws off the biggest earthquakes. He has good setup options. We can go Dancing Dino, Swords Dance, Rock Polish, so, and another Stealth Rocker. So that's another mod. Like if I don't, that frees up a move on Torkoal as well. So like we could bring Torkoal for Rapid Spin, and then Rhydon could be Stealth Rocks if we want to bring Stealth Rocks that week. So that was pretty cool. Now my 9th pick. Now I feel like a genius for the 9th pick here. My team is looking a little slow at the moment. Obviously, we have Sunsweeper, Venusaur, but our team is looking a little slow. The only mon we have over base 100 speed is Roaring Moon at 119. So I need to get some speed. And I also need to get an electric type. Fast electric types are a staple. And I grabbed Galvantula. Galvantula is a Pokemon I've used before and has a bit of a bad reputation in Draft League because people use it just to Focus Sash, like lead, Focus Sash, Sticky Web. Boom. Okay. And that's not what we're doing here. I mean, it is what we're doing, but it's not the only thing we can do. Galvantula is looking pretty crazy. Gives you that base 108 speed, another mon above 100, which is really important. Doesn't quite hit that like 110, you know, like the kind of different speed tiers and stuff you want to hit. But 108 is really good because obviously it's faster than 100 mons, 105 mons, stuff like that. Is a really good option. Gives me Volt Switch, which is really powerful. For a Switch Initiative, I can kind of Volt Switch into some of my bulkier Pokemon that want to take on a matchup a little better. Like for example, Galvantula doesn't like rock types. We can switch into Rhydon, and then Rhydon can punish something, so that's really cool. Obviously you got to be kind of smart the way you play Sticky Webs, but if we bring Sticky Webs, we have the best hazard removal blocker in the game. We have Goldengo. It's gonna be hard if we commit to Sticky Webs. It's gonna be hard for people to remove that against me. So I thought Galvantula was a great pickup. It's also an electric type that's not weak to ground, which would have made my ground weakness even more of a problem, and thankfully it's neutral because of the bug typing it has. And you know, bug type's a good type too, so there's a lot of good things about Galvantula. And also it is another really great option for Terra Captain, and again we'll go into that later. Now the draft is dying down. The way this draft works is we had a certain amount of points and we needed 10 Pokemon drafted total. There was a couple different rules I won't bore you guys with of like what tiers and stuff you could pick from. But I'm obviously running low on points at this stage. But Ambipom is still on the board, and my 10th pick in the draft is Ambipom. Ambipom is pretty cool because it has 115 speed. So that gives me a mon with 119, 115, and 108 speed. So that's actually a really kind of nice distribution of speed in there that people have to individually speed creep. Versus like, okay, I can't beat Roaring Moon, so I just won't invest in speed and I'll invest in bulk. Now they're like, okay, but I could outspeed Galvantula or I could outspeed Ambipom. So they might invest more in speed and, you know, make things a little frailer and things like that. So that's why it's kind of important to hit at some different speed tiers. I wish I had something like 130 speed. I was thinking about grabbing something like Electrode instead of Galvantula for that reason. Just give me something blinding fast. But I think Ambipom's a good pickup. It has Fake Out, U-Turn. Those are like the biggest moves I have like utility wise for it. Fake Out's obviously really good to break sashes. U-Turn's really good for Switch Initiative. And, you know, I'm sure it has things like, Double Edge and blah, blah, blah. But really, Fake Out and U-Turn. Technician boosted Fake Out actually is a threat. It does some damage, and, you know, obviously you get a free turn out of it. Now, we are into the 11th pick of the draft. I have 1 point left because of some of the picks and stuff I've made. You have up to 12 Pokemon you can draft, but this was my last point. What am I going to do with last point? Some people grab a funny, like, low-tier mon. Some people grab something like I forgot where, not Snivy, not Superior, whatever, the Servine. I forgot where Servine is, but Servine's a popular, like, low tier pick, but it's probably not 1 point. Anyway, I have 1 point. What am I going to do with it? Tropius, of course, I'm going to grab Tropius, another Sun Sweeper. Gives me a flying type in case that flying type becomes, you know, potentially important. But Sun boosted Tropius can hit really hard. It has access to Solar Beam. It has access to Solar Blade. And those moves are going to hit pretty heckin' hard. You know, I can see Tropius having a week, and that's kind of my goal. I would like to see Tropius have a good week one of these weeks. But that concludes all of my draft picks. That is all. I have 11 picks out of 12 available. You had to have 10. I have 11. And I honestly really like the way the team shaped out. The only thing I think I was missing was I really wanted a strong, I think it was like I don't really have like a strong flying type apart from Tropius. I kind of wanted Staraptor, but that got sniped from me, so I went with Ambipom instead. But we have some good stuff. And then also what's cool about Ambipom is it gives me a, going back to Ambipom, gives me a ghost immunity to kind of help out Goldengo a little bit. So that's also a good option, just to maybe make him think about, maybe I don't want to click Shadow Ball here. But let's talk about Terra Captains next. That is the last part of this draft. Let's talk about Terra Captains. So there was a different point total assigned to Terra Captains, and each of your Pokemon, not all Pokemon can be Terra'd. So like I can't, no matter how many points I spend, I cannot Terrasilize like Roaring Moon to give it like flying type, you know, like you do in VGC a lot. Goldengo wasn't available, and Roaring Moon wasn't available. Azumarill was available. If I wanted to use 20 of my 26 points, I could have picked Azumarill as a Terra Captain. I would have been like Terra Water. You only get one. So also, the lower the points, kind of like the less good, the lower tier of the Pokemon it is, the more Terra types it has available to it. So if I spent 20 points on Azumarill, I got one Terra type, so I could have been like Terra Water and just thrown off huge power Terra Water Aqua Jets. But we got a little creative with it. My first Terra Captain is Venusaur. Venusaur cost me, I believe, 16 of my Terra Captain points, and he had 2 Terra types available to him at that tier. So the first Terra type I picked was Terra Fire. Now Terra Fire is really good. Obviously, I mentioned the Weather Ball strategy earlier. So Terra Fire, Weather Ball, Sun boosted, obviously, is going to hit incredibly hard. You know, steel types that think they can kind of wall off the Venusaur, boom, they get dropped with Terra Fire. Fairies, boom, get hit with, I mean, like, we just sweep a lot of things. I think the only thing that becomes a problem is Dragon at that point, but we saw Poison, you know. Anyway, so Venusaur is an incredible, that basically makes Venusaur an insane Sun Sweeper that I can bring a lot of weeks, because we have a lot of coverage. We can spam Solar Beam, we can spam Weather Ball, we can spam Sludge Bomb. It's just a really good sweeping option to bring a lot of weeks. So that was pretty cool. And then my other Terra Captain, so I think you could choose up to 2 to 4 Terra Captains, I believe. You didn't have to, you only had to have 2. And so my other pick for Terra Captain was a Galvantula. Now Galvantula cost me 10 of my 26, or was it 28? Anyway, 10 of my 27 point, whatever it was, cost me 10 points, bringing me to a total of 26. And Galvantula has 3 Terra types available to it due to its tier. The first Terra type I picked was Electric, because Terra Electric Thunder is going to hurt everything. If I ran Choice Specs Terra Thunder, Choice Specs Terra Boosted Thunders are going to hurt incredibly bad. Terra Electric Volt Switches are going to hurt really bad, so you can't just freely switch into a Volt Switch. So that was a really good one. Then you'll see my next 2 Terra types. I think I had the space just to throw in some extra hard-hitting stab here. My second Terra type, which I think is the most important one for Galvantula, was Terra Ice. Obviously, electric types struggle against the ground types because they switch in to block a Volt Switch, and then you're stuck in versus a ground type, and you have to switch out. What I can do with Galvantula is now I can Terra Ice, Terra Blast the ground types trying to come in, and that's going to do ridiculous damage to ground types. They do not want to take Terra boosted, Terra Ice, whatever, all that is going to hit so hard, punish the ground types for trying to do what they're doing, and I was really excited about that. So we went ahead and grabbed Terra Ice. Obviously, it's a little bit of a defensive problem, but Galvantula is an offensive Pokemon, and basically now I have Stab, Bolt, Beam with Galvantula. That's actually insane. And then our last Terra type we picked for Galvantula was Terra Ghost. Now we went with Terra Ghost just to be another spin blocker. If a person is running like a lot of rapid spinners or has really great rapid spinning options, and I'm like, man, I need to keep webs up, I can run Terra Ghost to have Terra Ghost, Galvantula, and Goldango. Or if I'm not bringing Goldango for a week or whatever, I can still have a spin blocker, etc. You know, that gives me a couple team building options. Like, it's not like I have to bring Goldango to bring my webs, to protect my webs and stuff like that. So I think that was a pretty good option. And that's really all it's there for to do, is just spin block. You know, maybe a ghost type thinks it's safe, boom, Terra Blast, Shadow Ball, whatever. Anyway, so that was a pretty good pick. But that is going to be all for my Pokemon Premier League draft. I'm so excited to be back in Draft League. I hope you guys are too. It's been a long time since we've been here. Obviously, I have been out of singles battles for literally since Gen 7. I didn't touch a Gen 8, and I haven't touched a Gen 9 so far. So my expectations are realistic. Obviously, we want to do well. I'm going to be trying very hard and doing a lot of prep for these battles to give my opponents some good matches. You know, we get one win, I'll be like, okay, it wasn't a total embarrassment, but let's try to go positive this season. And, you know, maybe if I actually am goated and crazy and really good at battles still, maybe we make a push for playoffs. That'd be really sick, because I've never made playoffs before. But we have some strong opponents in my division. You know, we play people like Pokeaim, Seabad. There's a lot of strong people in my division. So we'll be having some good games. I hope you guys will enjoy the content. Like I said, Draft League has always been a favorite of mine. I love watching it still, and I'm excited to get back into it. Let's go. And if you guys want to pick up, I don't have any merch right now anyway, because I'm a bad YouTuber. There will be Rochester Rhydon merch down in the description if you guys want to check that out on my merch store. So if you guys are hyped up for your Rochester Rhydons, man, we are back, and we're going to get some dubs. Hope you guys have a good one. Catch you later. Peace!